All right, it took me a minute to get this thing figured out. I was trying to use my phone camera. All right, y'all. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. And you already know what it is. It's word power. It's not just a regular Wednesday, it's word power Wednesday, okay? And the reason we are here and the reason we come here every single Wednesday is to give an opportunity to give you words that you can add to your vocabulary toolkit, words that empower you and not disempower you. So it won't take long in most conversations to hear people just start, especially the more we're familiar and comfortable with each other. It doesn't take long for somebody to start talking in a way that you'll start to realize like people will just say things, right? They will just say things. And without giving much thought to the meaning or even bigger than that, what they're creating with what they say. Because every word that comes out of your mouth creates something. It creates something, life or death, either one. And that's biblical, okay? And so, what I want to do here is just provide a space where I can give you some words that you can eliminate from your vocabulary, but some words, hey, Crystal, but some words that you can also use that have power, all right? And so, the word for this week is accountable. Don't ask me why. The Holy Spirit gave me that word, but the word is accountable. So, let me get the definition. So, the word accountability means the quality or state of being accountable, the obligation or willingness to accept responsibility for one's own actions, the fact of being responsible for what you do, and able to give a satisfactory reason for it or the degree to which this happens. That's big, y'all. All right, synonyms for the word accountability are liable, explainable, responsible, answerable. There were more than that, but those were just the four that I chose, okay? So before we even dig into this, let's talk about why it matters. So when you are accountable or liable, explainable, really responsible, and willing to give an account, it says not just to you, but it says to other people that you can be trusted. It says that they can depend on you. So, in terms of what it says to you about you, it says, I am a person of integrity and I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do. All right. When it comes to other people, it says I'm open enough to be honest about the things that I have done or have not done. Right. I am willing to take responsibility for my action. All right. So when I think about this, I think about a story I used to have. I shall use no names other than the one that I am married to now. But I think about when I was dating uh, and some of the dating choices I made. Okay. Thank you, Lord, for deliverance. All right. So think about times in the past when I was dating and I would date people and they wouldn't necessarily want to be held accountable. They don't want to tell you where they've been. They don't want to tell you where they're about to go. They don't want to tell you why they didn't answer. And they didn't want to tell you, who they've been with. Right. But when I got married, or when I really, and one of the things that made me know that my husband was like, this is something serious, is that one of the things was his willingness to be accountable. So I wouldn't care who he would be on the phone with his mother. If I call, that call is over. He's like, hey, if we're talking and his mother calls, he's gonna click over and tell his mother, talking to Sanisha, I'm gonna call you right back. And that meant a lot to me. So what it said to me is this is somebody that I can trust. This is somebody that I really, really can depend on to do what it is that they said they were going to do. And honestly, in the nearly 13 years, next month, we will have been married 13 years. So in the nearly 13 years that we have been married, he has been able to do that. So it got me to thinking about how we can apply this to our lives, right? So when you are accountable, first of all, every goal, every measure of success that you hope, desire, or asking, praying to achieve in your life is going to require you to be accountable to some degree. All right. And we'll talk about to who. All right. But accountability requires a level of maturity that you don't just get just because you reach a certain age. So just because you are an adult or 21 or 31 or 41 or 51 or 61, that does not necessarily mean that you have developed, which is what maturity is, into a person who can allow themselves to be held accountable. When it does happen, though, is when you take ownership and you really realize that the greatest determining factor in your life or the life that you live is you. So everything, no matter what happens to me, the response to what is happening becomes mine. And my ability or my willingness to give an account, that's on me, right? And it directly affects my quality of life. So I bring this up because there are a lot of times when we're wanting things in life, we want to achieve something, but we don't want to give an account. All right. There are times as adults, because of our age and maybe our professional duties, our familial duties, there are some things we're responsible for and we're required to be a leader. Accountability happens or responsibility happens when you realize like the best way that you're going to ever lead anybody else is to lead yourself. So it's about governing and leading yourself. All right. So here are a few things that I need for you to know about accountability. So being accountable or being willing to give an account will not only help you get what you want, but it's going to help you keep it. All right. Because the truth is, if you got immediately what you desired, if I got all the money that I wanted right now, would I be able to maintain it? And my ability to maintain it is going to be tied directly to my ability to give an account of what I am doing or what I have done with those funds, right? So if I got $1 million today and I did whatever I want, that $1 million would be gone relatively quickly. All right. But being able to give an account keeps me aware. All right. So what I want you to know about accountability is when you are an honest person or a person who's willing to be honest, is going to create a awareness. All right. So me keeping track of the money is going to help me be aware of how fast it's leaving and how much is leaving. Right. But when you are honest, when you are self aware, when you have matured or developed or are in the process of developing into the type of person who takes ownership for their life, then you're more open to giving an account. All right. So if you find yourself having some difficulty or some level of can't nobody tell me what to do. And I don't think that we all say it in that way, but I think it shows up in our actions. All right. So your success, the other thing I want you to know is how successful you're going to be in life is tied to how well you measure and manage what it is you say you want. So if you were given $1 million, there's going to be an onus, a requirement, a responsibility to be accountable, right? And to measure and manage it. All right. And this goes for this is for relationships. This applies to our professional lives, our material possessions, our health, our finances, any leadership position that we possess. You're going to have to be willing to give it an account. All right. And when you're honest and transparent, and aware of like your limitations and your strengths, it becomes easier for you to be able to give an account. All right. So before I close, I want to share with you a couple of ways. I want to give you 4 ways. I had more than that. And really within the 4, it's like 3 in some of them. Okay. I'm going to give you 4 ways that how do you do it? How do you open yourself up to being more accountable? Because we understand, okay, got it, Tanisha. If I'm going to achieve what I want in life and have the quality of life that I want, I'm going to have to be open and willing to give an account to somebody, even if that somebody is me. All right. So the first thing you got to do is get clear on what you're working towards. All right. What's the win and why do you want it? That's the first question you got to ask yourself. What's the win here and why do I want it? A lot of times when you dig into and you uncover the reason behind what you're striving towards, it's going to reveal the reason that you want it is going to be tied to your willingness to be accountable. So if it's something shallow or something superficial, you probably won't want to give an account of what you're doing because we like to be comfortable. This is the truth. As humans, it's part of who we are and it is part of how we survive. So we like to be comfortable. All right. And so what we want to do sometimes is slide back to what feels normal and what feels familiar. So anytime you're working to do something else and you got to give an account for it, there's going to be some level of discomfort. And it's right there in that discomfort. It's right there in that discomfort where you're like, I don't want to do this because I want to do what it is that I used to do. All right. So when people are surprised that I I was a fan of Chick-fil-A, and I say that real lightly because I wasn't a fan. I was a creature of habit, okay? And so that I ate Chick-fil-A on a more than necessary basis, okay? Um, the only way that I was able, I didn't have some sort of super natural strength. Now it is possible that God can do that, but that's not what happened in my case. I didn't have some sort of supernatural strength that I just said, you know what, Chick-fil-A, I'm done with you. Cold turkey, I quit. No, I had a coach. I had a coach that required me to be accountable in the sense that I had to send my blood glucose, right? So there's no lies detected there. All facts are going to show up there. And I had to send what I ate. And if the walk and the talk weren't aligned, it would be evident in the glucose because I couldn't lie, right? There's no way I could lie. And so knowing that I had somebody who's checking, who's going to see the discrepancy in what I'm supposed to be doing and what I might actually do, it helped me to stay on track. So it wasn't initially that I was this super disciplined person that could control myself. Now, you can develop that over time. But until you can, you've got to be able to allow somebody else to do it. All right. So the first thing we got to do is identify the win. All right. And the win needs to have a reason that you're doing it. So what's the win and why do you want it? The why you want it, that part has to be something significant and real. It can't be this shallow and frivolous stuff like how I wanted to lose 50 pounds just so I could be cute in a size 14. Honest to goodness truth. I'm not making this stuff up. I wanted to lose 50 pounds and be 190 pounds so that I could be cute in a 14. Yep, that was the goal, right? But the truth is, a goal like that, it was not going to be sustainable, right? It was not going to be sustainable because it really had nothing tied to it, like the legacy of my family or the energy that I have to spend with my children or being able to, wake up and pop out of the bed and be productive during the course of the day because I'm not tired and have a headache and bogged down by just feeling like trash, like those sorts of things. So the what and the why of what you want you're going to have to be very, very clear on that. All right. And it might take some time. You might not have it as you start. So sometimes you start with the accountability and you develop a clearer understanding of what I want and why. So don't wait until you're very clear on it to start, because you can begin and in the execution, things can be revealed to you. All right. So my what and why I wanted it was very shallow. But when I got off my blood pressure medication, my first thought was like, this is game changing. This has changed my life in a way that I couldn't have imagined, right? That I didn't even know to ask for. All right. And it led to other things. So you're going to have a strong, strong win and a why. And as long as it's in a shaky, shallow place, it won't be enough to sustain you. And you're going to go back to what's more comfortable, because the reward of what you get, it really won't stand up against the things that you have to do, the level of discomfort you'll have to, exhibit to maintain your results. And that's with anything that's in relationships. It's almost like when you start dating somebody, in relationships and everybody's nice and on their best behavior and doing really well. Well, the true person is still there. And this version of the person that you're being, it can get a little uncomfortable, but eventually there's going to have to be something that's going to have to weigh more than going back to that old version of yourself. All right. So the first thing I need you to do is identify your win and why do you want it? Like, what's the win and why do you want it? Next, you're going to have to manage your time. So whatever it is that you say you want, your daily calendar or your daily schedule needs to have some indication of when you're going to do it. All right. What are the things that you're going to have to say no to in order to do it, right? So hey, Kathy, we want things like we want to be sexy fine. We want to be a millionaire. These are things we want a bigger house. We want this relationship because we think that these things will generate some sort of happiness in us. However, the things that this is the truth. It's going to make you happy, but you're going to be even sadder when you're unable to maintain it, right? So everything that you did to get a husband, right? You're going to have to do that and then some to keep your husband, right? And it's not going to be this instantaneous happiness. The happiness comes in the person that you are developing into. So the short version, I'm getting off track here. back to my point, you're going to have to be able to manage your time. All right. There needs to be some level of indication in your day. Right. So if I don't even have this thing on my schedule as to when I'm going to do it, or I haven't identified, there are things that I'm going to have to say no to in order to do it. Right. You're going to have to dedicate a time or a routine to achieve what it is that you say you want. So that should be evident in the course of your day. If you're waking up and you don't know what today is supposed to look like, things are already off track from the moment you open your eyes. Okay. And I just really believe that. So you have to become a steward of your time. That just means to manage the time that God has given you and manage it well. So I say I want this, and here's the reason I want it. Now, when am I going to do it? So what's the when? Why do I want it? And when am I going to do it? All right. Next, you're going to have to be open to being honest. Accountability is all about honesty. All right. So you're going to have to be honest with yourself and others. All right. That means you're going to some degree, have to take your pride, your little pride, because there's this ego part of us, this prideful part of us that I believe that we get when we become an adult. Like, can't nobody tell me what to do? I'm grown. Well, the reason why you're going to have to check that pride is because you don't tell you what to do. And so you need somebody to tell you what to do until you can tell you what to do. And that's the truth. So you have to take some of that pridefulness that we can have sometimes as adults because we're grown and we do have the freedom to decide what we're going to do, when we're going to do it, how we're going to do it. And most times there are consequences, but they're ours. And most people ain't running around here telling grown people what to do. All right. And there ain't grown folks allowing people to tell them what to do. So you have to take that pride. If I'm grown, push that to the side. All right. Be honest with yourself and be willing to be honest with somebody else. All right. In this honesty and this pride, being accountable does not mean perfect. So you're going to have grace with yourself for your mistakes. So there's some honesty there. There's some things, some limitations that I have just simply because I'm human. All right. And while I plan to do this thing every single day, it may not get done every day. So you're going to have grace for the mistakes. Even if I don't do it, I should be able to see an identifiable pattern in what I am doing, right? So there should be a pattern. I might miss a day, but there should be an identifiable pattern because that pattern is what's going to create the life that I want. All right. So be honest with yourself and others. In that honesty, set aside your pride, give yourself grace for your mistakes. Learn to stop overcommitting. I remember a season of my life because I'm a pretty friendly person and I like social activities. And I would say yes to everybody's everything. You having a gathering at your house, you're having this thing at your church, you're having this thing. I am there. that was my motto. I'm there. Like I am so there. A great time to interact with people, have fun, and be a great friend. I mean, what else could I ask for? I'm there. But what I had to learn to do was I had to learn my limits. All right. I had to learn that I'm just one little person, right? With 168 hours in a week, 24 hours in a day. That's, I get the same 24 hours, right? And so there's only so many gatherings in that period of time, in that 168 hours that I can go and hang out. There's so many good friend relationships I can really steward and nurture well. All right. I have some limits. All right. And this over committing because I want to please people, which is the root of it. So I had to ask myself some honesty. Here we go with this honesty. I had to ask myself some honest questions about why do you feel the need to tell everybody that you're going to come to their things. So this is where COVID, when I say COVID saved my life, I mean COVID saved my life because COVID gave me a legitimate reason to be able to decline. The legitimate reason is because I still have friends and family that when we didn't know what COVID was going, what the pandemic was going to look like, when we had no idea, should we even be in close proximity to each other, or are we going to leave this world? I still have friends and family that were convening and gathering, and they were like, "Baby, the Lord know my heart." They were still socializing and gathering, and because I was like, I'm not trying to catch it in no type of way. I'm avoiding, really running from this COVID thing. I don't want to get it. I had a legitimate reason to decline every invitation. So I still got invitations in the pandemic, and for a long time, I declined them. And so what I learned is as I began to usher back in, when we started going back in the world and started seeing people and dealing with people more, I started being very selective on the things that I allow. So I had to really measure like, okay, what is the what is this yes costing me? Because me saying yes to this person and their event and their thing, it's a no to something else, whether it's time with my family, time working on my goals, time, with my children, whether it's time to myself. It is a yes to this is no to that. Period. It's called an opportunity cost. If you've been to anybody's business school, it's a very simple concept called opportunity cost. When you say yes to this, it means a no to that. All right. And the same is true in our life. So if I say yes to your event, it means no to something, even if that something is just recharging my batteries by laying on my couch. All right. So now I have to weigh the value of what I'm saying no to. Is it really worth the no that I'm receiving for this yes? And there have been events that I'm like, yes, this is this is worth the adjustment to my schedule. This is worth the sacrifice that I have to make with my family schedule. It's worth it, but I got more selective. So all I'm saying is be honest about what your limits are and what are the things that you can do, and avoid overcommitting. A lot of times you're pushing out the things you say you want because you're filling it with all these things that don't mean anything. All right. So know your limits and start making these small changes, right? Don't make the goal so big, like I'm gonna do a half marathon every day. I'm going to do 10 miles a day. I know somebody that did that. They were doing 10 miles a day. And I was like, I can't hop on board. I can't get on that bandwagon. I just can't do it. All right. So small steps, don't overcommit, know your limits, and be honest with yourself and graceful as you work through this being accountable. All right. So remember, the accountability is not necessarily to somebody else. It's with yourself. Like the highest version of accountability is to God and yourself. All right. So allow yourself to be accountable though to somebody else until you have the discipline, the self-control to be accountable. So be accountable to somebody until you can be accountable. All right. And the last thing, number 4, is I need you to reflect and adjust. All right. And celebrate. When we get grown, back, we just stop having a good time and we stop celebrating. So as you are working through this accountability, like missing the opportunity to do what you said you were going to do, it becomes a lesson for some other things. So what's the reason? What happened here? What didn't go so well here? How do I adjust so that this particular thing doesn't happen again? So when people say, so I lead a coaching and accountability program, and people will say, like, work got busy. I plan to do this, but my husband, my kids, whatever. Okay, great. That happened. Now what do we do? Now let's take some time to reflect on what happened, how we got to that place, and how do we make the adjustments that are necessary so that we don't do that again. So you have to have time to reflect and adjust, and then of course celebrate yourself. All right. I think that we live in a culture that looks like grind, 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 go, 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 do more, do more, do more. And yes, God wants us to be productive and He wants us to be fruitful, which when He's like, be fruitful and multiply, God is telling you go produce something. So there should be some production, something that you can see for the labor that you put in. There should be a harvest. Okay. So yes, but does it look like this constant running, 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 running? No, sometimes it means turn your phone off, take a bubble bath. I don't know what your thing is. Whatever your thing is, do that. All right. Because it's simply going to motivate you to keep going. All right. So those are the 4 things. Get clear on what's the win and why you want to do this thing. Learn to manage your time. Be honest with yourself and other people, which involves, grace for your mistakes, losing the pride. Ain't nobody got time for that. Recognizing your limitations, and sometimes getting somebody else to do it. Sometimes you need an accountability partner, not one of these waffly accountability partners. One of the ones that's going to kind of, get on you when you don't do it. Reflect, adjust, and celebrate. That's all one. All right. So the next thing I want to just submit to you before I leave here today. Mastering accountability in your life is super duper important. And it's not just because the world says so, but the Bible says so. In Proverbs 25 and 28, the word says that those who do not control themselves are like a city whose walls are broken down. So that just means you're open for attack, and you literally invite attack in your life through your lack of discipline or defenses. All right. So the person who has no discipline, no willpower, no self-control, um, they have no defense against the things that kill our spirit: anger, pride, lust, impatience, these emotions, bitterness, resentment, pick it, I don't know, addiction, all these things. So when we don't have discipline, when we don't have self-control, and we are not willing to be accountable, we are like a city whose walls are broken down and open for every attack of the enemy. And this is why accountability really, really, really matters. Okay. And so that's all that I wanted to share. I did want to let you know that if you are, we are 17 days into the new year. If you are still not, checking those boxes and getting those goals set, I want to invite you to join me on my masterclass tomorrow night. All you have to do is go to happynewyearnow.com. The link is in my under my description. But it's happynewyearnow.com, simple. And register for tomorrow's webinar. No charges, free. I just want to share with you some things that I know for absolute fact. If there are areas of your life that you're not hitting the mark, there are several things that are there. I will identify and tell you what are the things that are getting in your way and why you have yet to make this the year that you do what you said you were going to do. All right. So I love you all the way to life. Thank you, Crystal. I love you guys all the way to life. And I will see you next week for Word Power Wednesday. This week, I need you to reflect on how and where you will be more accountable in your life and how it's going to help you become the best version of yourself. Love you to life, and I'll see you next week.